Hey guys, Josh Fierstein here. You know, the other day I had an atheist tell me that I was an idiot, moronic, and stupid for believing in God, that he created this world, because it took way too much faith to believe in a process like that, while he believed in what he called the science of evolution. Well, let's go ahead and let's do this.
Hey, that's my line. I'm the one who says, let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Now, I have no idea who this guy actually is. Somebody else had him on their channel, but at least 3 of you sent me this video, so why do you really want me to go after this guy? Now, we're on the subject of evolution, or actually it's abiogenesis, but don't tell him that. People confuse those two all the time. Check it out.
Dear Mr. Atheist, first of all, let me correct you. Because evolution is not a science, never has, and never will be. Why? Because it cannot fit within the parameters and parentheses of science for one simple reason. It was never observed.
Neither was the existence of dinosaurs, yet we know they existed. Why? Because of evidence, and that is what we need for science, not direct observation.
That's why it's not science. That's why it's called the theory of evolution.
You know, you really should look this stuff up before you spout off. Because yeah, in common use, theory means, just a guess. But in science, a theory is a well-substantiated explanation of some aspect of the natural world that's acquired through the scientific method and repeatedly confirmed through observation and experimentation. A theory is something of which we are most certain.
Now, let me show you how much faith it really takes to believe in evolution. You want me to believe that in some accidental cosmic bang, that out of that was created one cell and...
Now hold on a moment. The arising of life is not evolution. It's abiogenesis. The two are different, and don't mix them up. Now let's suppose, just for a moment, that your God really is real and really did create life. But let's suppose we're right, and evolution did happen. Are you willing to consider that possibility? Suppose your God created life, but it wasn't life as we know it. It wasn't humans and animals. Suppose that God created just that one cell. And suppose he just let evolution take its course, natural selection. Are you willing to consider that possibility? I'm not so sure you are.
And from that one cell that all life springs, every plant, every animal, every single human being, and that somewhere along the way over years and years we mysteriously and magically all develop different wills, and we all develop different characteristics and traits.
The fact that you would describe it as magical and mysterious says to me that you're filtering your idea of what evolution is through religious lenses, because, let's face it, there's a lot of magic in the Bible. But if you actually studied evolution and natural selection with more than just a cursory glance, you'd realize that magical and mysterious are exactly what it isn't.
All because we willed it in our... I mean, you really think that everything came from one single cell? How much faith does that take?
Just because you don't understand it and don't believe it does not mean it takes faith. It means it takes an open mind, education, and evidence. Your incredulity has no effect on something's probability.
Now, I realize that you say that evolution is in science. And yet, if we go back to science, the one thing that science demands, maybe you've heard of something called the law of thermodynamics, which means that chaos can never produce order.
Except that's not even true. Look up Galileo's double pendulum experiment. Or heck, take a double handful of pebbles and throw them up in the air. Watch what they do. At first, their flight paths are erratic, they're bouncing off of each other, but eventually they succumb to inertia and their flight paths become a lot more regular. And then when they succumb to gravity, they fall in an even more regular pattern. They'll hit the ground, bounce a little, and then they stop. And stopping is pretty ordered movement when you think about it. So yes, chaos can produce order.
And yet, you cannot argue that a world that has order came out of an accident, because it defies the very logic and laws of science.
But the only people who describe abiogenesis as being an accident are the religious. I assume this is because your religion states that your God deliberately poofed life into existence, and the only other possible explanation would have to be an accident. But as you say, this universe has order in it. Take a look at something like a cloud, water vapor coming together to form a single whole. Are clouds accidents? No, they're part of the natural order of this universe. So what's to stop other chemicals from coming together to form the first living cell? Why would that have to be an accident and not part of the natural order?
You see, you think it takes a lot of faith for me to believe in a God that created this world, a God that created order, and yet, what if I were to tell you that somewhere in Oklahoma, a tornado rolls through a junkyard full of a bunch of old cars, and somewhere on the other side of that tornado, out of that junk pile, it magically produces a perfectly red, shiny, working Lamborghini?
I'd say you don't understand how abiogenesis works. I'd also say that you think life is far too perfect if you're comparing it to a shiny new Lamborghini. Given that we have things like cancer, diabetes, epilepsy, or fucking ugly people, life is a lot more like a rusted out old bento.
How much faith would it really take to believe something as idiotic as that? And yet that's exactly what science believes.
No, it's not. That's what you think science says about abiogenesis, but it's not the case. Now, I don't think I'm being too presumptuous to assume that your church told you this about the subject, and that's why you believe it. But if you bothered to look it up, you'd realize it's a total misconception. Oh, and telling science what science believes?
Back to paddling.
Everything in Earth was created perfectly, and I'm telling you, that could never happen through an accident. It had to be by intelligent design.
Now, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that out of the literally billions of galaxies, each one containing billions, perhaps trillions of stars, that not one of those stars could have a planet with the conditions just right for life. Is that what you're saying to me? Because even if it were an accident, the laws of probability say that with that many tries, eventually those dice are going to come up as an all sixes Yahtzee on your first roll.
Who really has to have a lot of faith today to believe in their theory? I believe in God because I've experienced Him, I've felt Him.
Which one of us needs more faith? Well, given that you cannot show your experiences or share your feelings with other people, the most probable explanations are either that you're mistaken, you're making shit up, or you're a complete nutbar. And even if you're right, there is no reason anyone else should believe you. However, those of us who trust in science expect evidence, expect people to be able to test their claims. So which one of us needs more faith? Well, I'm afraid it's the religious.
But most of all, while driving through Yellowstone and Montana and so many of these natural reserves this week and looking at animals and looking at life, I don't know. I just can't look at all of that creation and say that it was an accident.
Come on, look at this treadmill. Tell me that ain't God.
Once again, your incredulity is not evidence. Something isn't false just because you can't believe it.
Well, the word universe, you believe in a Big Bang, but when I look at the word universe, it means una, which is one or singular. That's Latin, universe. Verse means a spoken statement.
You really should look this stuff up before you spout off, kiddo. Because yeah, uni means one, but verse is the past participle of vertir, which means to turn. Universe literally means turn to one.
But I'm sure you already knew that. That's what turns me on about you. Your attention to detail.
It's time for us to stand up, get loud, and get proud. Why do we let evolutionary, quote-unquote, science work its way into middle schools and preschools and colleges and universities around the world?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe because between science and religion, science is the one for which we have evidence.
I say it's time for us to begin to believe in intelligent design, believe in God.
And I believe it's time to start letterboxing our videos. I swear, it's like trying to watch a movie when you can only see barely 1/6 of the screen. Just say no to vertical video. Anyway, until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think.